As a content creator that focuses primarily on folding phones, one of the comments, one of the questions I get most often has got to be people asking me, what foldable should I buy? And I, like always, stray away from answering that question because I don't want to answer it. I don't want to tell somebody, you should buy this phone, and then they buy it and they come back in 3 months and say, you idiot, why did you recommend that phone to me? I hate it. I'm not going to tell you what phone to buy. But what I will do in this video is kind of take a look at the landscape of foldables with budget in mind. What is, in my opinion, the best bang for your buck when it comes to folding phones? We're going to do this in a very free-form way. I'm just going to look in real time. I'll edit some things to make it a bit more fun to watch. But we're just going to look and see what some of my favorite foldables are going for in 2025. Let's start off with one of my favorite foldable phones of all time, the original Pixel Fold. It definitely has its problems. It's a little thick, it's a little chunky, and I have had some hardware issues with mine. But just simply going to Amazon, and you can find this thing for less than $500, $439 from this seller. Now look, be careful, just pay attention to the seller, look for reviews. That's going to be true for all of these. You've got to use your best judgment when you're doing this, but we're seeing this easily less than $500. So this is Amazon renewed, so it's a refurbished for $439. For $439, if you just want to play around with a folding phone, this is a really, really great option right off the bat. I actually recently did an entire video on what it's like to use the first-gen Pixel Fold in 2025, and my take on it after basically putting my SIM back in this phone and using it as my primary device for about a week was that I was really pleasantly surprised by this phone, especially if you're willing to run some of these betas now that have some of the new features. Actually, I think Material 3 Expressive is out broadly now, so you don't even need to do that. You just have this beautiful new interface. It is faster and smoother than you maybe think that it would be, given that it's a Tensor G2. Like, it's pretty well optimized. The camera isn't that far behind the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, which is pretty solid. You have this awesome form factor, which to me is still peak foldable. It is a miniature flagship phone that I can reach the top of the screen with, that also opens up into a tablet. I love this design. No, it doesn't want to open completely flat, and that's the thing that some people got mad about. And like I said, it's a little thick, it's a little heavy, but my goodness, if you're just looking for a way in and you want to stay as cheap as possible, that's probably going to win this thing, but we're going to go through and look at some other ones as well. So what do we have for the OnePlus Open? This is a fantastic, fantastic phone. Even though it's a couple of years old now, it is still really, really good. In fact, when I did my comparison between it and the Oppo Find N5, which is basically the sequel to this phone, I think I came down saying that I might prefer the OnePlus Open because it just has a better camera as far as I'm concerned. It's better hardware. I like the processing better as well. I like that faux leather back. The speakers are way, 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 way better than the Find N5. So let's see what we can do here. $1099 is a little steep still. So let's look at this one here, $1167. We got to dig a little bit. OnePlus.com is not helping us. They're still $16.99. That's more than I paid whenever the thing came out. We're going over to Swappa. We're getting a little bit trickier, right? This is basically like eBay for phones, and it looks like we're starting at $649. But you do have to pay attention to what the condition is. So here's one unlocked. Condition is good. And it's always, kind of hard to tell just from photos like this, but it does look like it's in pretty solid condition. I don't see anything too crazy. Okay, there's a couple of dings on the corner. That's probably going to be what you're going to experience looking for these phones. Definitely some dings here as well. That might give me a little bit of pause because it is a folding phone, and you're thinking, this thing's been dropped a couple of times. What might be going on with it? But if you're willing to risk it and go for something that might have some slight issues. Here's one for $855 they say is mint. That might be pushing it a little bit as well. Like I said in the beginning, use your best judgment, right? Don't buy something that you're like, it looks kind of beat up, but it's cheaper. This is a folding phone, so we want to be careful with that kind of stuff. If you're in the 700-ish range, even though the phone's been out for a couple of years and it's not going to get that many more updates, and they've really not been putting out a ton of updates, period. They've been a little bit slower. They've been slowing down as the phone's been out. I think that's pretty solid still because, like I said, the Open is still an amazing phone. As mine is booting up, you can see here, let me compare it to my Galaxy Z Fold 7. Yeah, it's absolutely thicker than the Z Fold 7, and it does have that really big camera module, but it's fine, right? Like, you could totally get away with this. It's not so thick that it's going to be a problem. It's definitely lighter than the first-gen Pixel Fold. It's got a very standard cover display compared to the Pixel Fold. Maybe that's what you're into. Maybe you want that more standard cover display. Very small hinge area to the side. The inner screen, I think, is really solid as well. Nice large inner screen, hole punches in the corner, which I think a lot of people prefer. And like I mentioned, the camera module, it is quite large, but it's better hardware than what's in the sequel to this phone. And because of that, I really like the way the photos look on this phone. Now, they are stylized. They are like instantly recognizable to me. And I think maybe it's that Hasselblad partnership. And typically, I do prefer a camera that is a bit more neutral. But I happen to really like what they do with their camera processing on the Open, so I kind of diverge from my normal perspective of liking a neutral shot, and I really enjoy the OnePlus Open's camera. This is a phone that if I had to go back to it, if someone was forcing me to put my SIM back in this phone, I wouldn't really have any problems with it. It has held up very, very well. It's got, most of the same software things that I love about the Oppo Find N5 kind of, they debuted here. This is where we got these things first. So multitasking, open canvas, the 2-finger swipe down, all of that stuff is here. So yeah, I would have no problem using this phone. Here's the phone that my wife is currently using, the Galaxy Z Fold 6. Looks like from Amazon, renewed, we are in the $900 range. That's not great. There's one here that's $784, probably AT&T. We're going to try to avoid that. Samsung is out of their minds trying to sell the 6 for $18.99. That is an enormous no. Best Buy is refurbished, a little over $1,000. We're a little bit steep here. We might be heading to Swappa again. Here's one that's mint for $927. That's probably a little steep for me. You do have still, I think, 6 years of software updates to go. You have the S Pen, you have solid speakers. The cameras are fine, nothing too crazy. I can't show you my Fold 6 because it's probably sitting on my wife's desk at her work right now, but trust me when I tell you all of those things are absolutely true. Here's one for, let's just go with this one. It's $719. It's up here at the top of the list. And from what I can tell, this thing looks pretty good. I don't see the scuffs and things. Ooh, there we go. There's the good rating. The scratches on the screen. So that would be a no-go for me. But you're going to have a ton of options, right? There's going to be a lot of these floating around. So if you're willing to do some digging and really look for one of these things, you can probably snag one for less than $1,000. I'd say pretty reliably, somewhere maybe even less than $800. That's definitely a little bit steep still, especially if you have like trade-ins and things like that. If you have trade-ins, you might want to just go with the 7. Because I can tell you from my experience with my affiliate links that basically every single person that clicked one of my links and bought a Z Fold 7, they paid $1,500 or less. Some of them paid around $1,000 because of what they traded in. So that's definitely something to keep in mind as well. But, look, like I said, it still has 6 years of software updates to go. It's only been on the market for a year, so it's newer than the OnePlus Open. But the Open does have the bigger battery, the wider cover display, it's got a better camera setup. We're going to disqualify the Z Fold 6. I think we're down to the Pixel Fold and the OnePlus Open. What about the Pixel 9 Pro Fold? Here's one from Google. This must be some sort of like a refurb. Maybe it's new. That'd be crazy if that was new for $1,000. It's renewed. So $10.98, and that is actually from the Google store. That should give you some confidence, maybe you could say. That's not a terrible start for a phone that's a year old. Here's one from Amazon, renewed for $977, $81 a month if you finance it. That's really not too bad. $977, pretty close to that Z Fold 6 that we saw on Swappa. And on that used market, we are starting at $772. So we're, again, Z Fold 6, Pixel 9 Pro Fold, they are really, really close. But here's a mint one for $850. If it truly is mint, perfect condition, for $850, they've got a skin on the camera thing, they've got a case on it, I'd like to see them pop the case off, show you what it looks like, but if that truly is meant for $850, that's pretty decent, especially when you start thinking about how the 10 Pro Fold really didn't change anything. The camera hardware is not really changing. It's a newer processor and a slightly bigger battery, but the weight, the thickness, no big changes there either. You do have the Pixel Snap ring, but maybe that doesn't matter to you. So maybe you save half the price, right? This is basically half off or less than half off compared to the 10 Pro Fold. This could be an option. And we're talking about a phone that until the Z Fold 7 came out, this was probably my go-to foldable phone. This is where my sim lived for the most part. It is not particularly light, but it is, you know, I think it's more than thin enough. I guess we can do the Z Fold 7 thing again. We're closer than we were with the OnePlus Open or the first gen Pixel Fold. It does have a pretty normal cover display. I do really like the inner display. I like how large that is, multitasking. You've got two really like large apps on the screen. The camera is a pixel camera, which means it's going to be quite good. The speakers are also quite good. You've got stereo separation in any orientation, which I love to see. And it's got all the Pixel smarts. And of course, because it's a Pixel, it does get software updates on a very regular basis and new features arriving still relatively often. So, you know, we're still a little bit on the high side, but I think that this is worth pointing out. Here's a thought though. Let's go even older. Let's go to a Z Fold 5. This is renewed, and I think this is from Samsung. No, this is from Amazon renewed. But that, I mean, it's coming from Amazon, so if you get it and it sucks and it's something's wrong with it, just send it back. $650 is pretty darn strong for a Z Fold 5. Now, that cover display is a little bit more narrow than I would want. The Fold 6, it really got better. The Fold 7, it got a whole heck of a lot better. But for $650, not even going to someplace like Swappa to buy something that's used, I think that's pretty compelling. Because again, you got to keep in mind, I'm thinking about people who are trying to get into foldables for the first time. They're looking for their entry point. They're looking for the best budget-minded way to get into foldables. And so you don't want to just say, well, the Pixel Fold's the cheapest. You want to kind of have a bit of a more balanced perspective than that. The Pixel Fold is the cheapest. But maybe, you know, you want to include Samsung in this for $650. It's not that much more expensive. And it's Samsung. It's their fifth folding phone. It's a very, very solid phone. You've got the pen. You've got a camera setup. It's not that different from the Fold 6, I think, at all. It might be the exact same camera setup from the Fold 6. So I think for $650, some people might want to go that route. So I think for me, my pick is probably going to be the original Pixel Fold just because of, one, my affinity for that phone, and then two, the price. Thinking about people who don't want to spend much but want to try out a folding phone, that's going to be hard to beat. The Z Fold 5 for like $650 directly from Amazon renewed, I think is a really good spot to be. If you want to spend a little bit more though and try to find a used OnePlus Open that is in good shape, if you can find one to get lucky in that $750 range, that's going to be very, very hard to beat. That is, I think, if I'm just looking at it from an objective perspective, that's a better phone than those two. And it's not going to be that much more if you can find the right deal. So I think those would be my three top choices. Last two, no particular order, going to come down to what kind of deal you're able to find. I think it's also worth just paying attention to sales. I know that the Fold 7 just came out and it's very, very expensive, but Black Friday is coming up relatively soon, and things do always happen around that time, around the holidays. You do see some discounts. So when we start seeing these phones that creep up to $800, $900, $1,000, at that point I'm like, wait and see when these sales hit, because it might be worth saving a little bit more money and just buying a current gen foldable when it's on sale. So guys, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Did you get in on foldables in a similar way? Did you grab a Pixel Fold for less than $500 when I talked about it in that prior video? What would your recommendation be? Drop those comments down below. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more content like this, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.